paragraph Yud Daled. That's 6 lines down. V'zehu hascholas isgalus hayesh mi'ayim. B'chachma ha'elyoina shemimena hamshachas habriya kula. So let me first again catch us up. What we were discussing until now is that Torah shebiksav was kaf aleim har kegigis. Torah shebiksav was not something that we really wanted to do. We were compelled to do what we were forced to do. But we did say Nasav and Ishma. We did say Nasav and Ishma. So the answer is that it's true we said Nasav and Ishma, but here's a yisoid that I think is going to help us for a very, very complicated limud. I'm going to try to simplify things. We said Nasav and Ishma, but sometimes you can say Nasav and Ishma because you know something is right, but you don't really feel that it's right. Like paying taxes. Or getting an operation. Like, do you really want to get this operation? No. Kind of a sugar wants to get an operation, you know. But sometimes, like, okay, you look at the alternative, and this is going to make the quality of my life better, this is going to make me live. So there's a difference between Ratzon and Ratzon. Yes, I want the operation, but I don't want the operation. I don't want it like I really have a cheshek for this operation. It's just that I want it because I know I need it. So that's let's classify this idea by distinguishing between a ratzon chitzoni and a ratzon pnimi. You know, if you take the concept a bit further, there's keeping Torah. So I keep Torah. Like, let's say I know philosophically this is the right thing. There's a creator. I know philosophically it's been proven to me by Rabbi Gottlieb that he gave the Torah on Har Sinai. And I went through the seminar and I got to keep the Torah, which is good. That is in the bechina of Nasav and Ishma. Here we are, our shus. That's in the bechina of Nasav and Ishma because I'm not. And it's good. It's a very high madrega. I'm not minimizing this at all. Adrabah. It could be this is the highest madrega. That I don't really have my heart in it per se. Like it's not that I really feel. And you could even argue that if I had my heart in it, it would be a little bit shaloi l'shma. Then I'm already doing it for myself. But there's a bittul das l'gamri to something which I know is a philosophical truth. So again, we're not talking about an operation. We're talking about a good thing. But even the good thing could be in a bechina of Nasav and Ishma, as opposed to being in a bechina of Ritzoinenu Lavodas Malkeinu. Ritzoinenu Lirois Es Malkeinu. It's two different things. So it's important for our sophisticated group here this morning to understand the difference between Ratzon and Ratzon. So the difference between Shavuos and Purim is on Shavuos we said Nasav and Ishma, but it was Kaf Aleim Har Kigigis. So Kaf Aleim Har Kigigis does not need to be understood that the mountain actually uprooted from its place. Maybe that's what Chazal say, but I think that the Baral already says that the pshat is that it was absolutely compelling intellectually and even emotionally. It was just simply impossible for us not to be Makabel Torah at that moment. You're in it too deep. After the Yetzias Mitzrayim that just went through, and the Leftei Chacharai Bamidbar, and the standing at Har Sinai, and Moshe Rabbeinu, and the lightning and the thunder, the whole thing, not going to be Makabel. Like you're in it too deep. Just imagine all the different scenarios where we got into too deep. We get into too far. And I have no choice any longer but to be Makabel. So that's Nasav and Ishma. And it took all the way, 1,000 years, all the way until the Seif, Bayis Rishon. We had to go through all of Sefer Belachim and Shoftim and Kibush Eretz Yisrael and David HaMelech and everything, all the way until the Kol Bayis Rishon, until we ended up as a popular Persian Jews, left Eretz Yisrael. That somehow we said, let's be makabel this. It was a different type of a Kabbalah. It's a Kabbalah Miratzin. There was no, so Kaf Aleim Har Kegigis, yes, says the Gemara, but Hadar v'kiblua b'mei Achashverosh, Kimu v'kiblu HaYehudim. Different type of a Kabbalah. Which is better, which is worse? Lo barur. Which is better, which is worse? But we should not speak to say that it's two different things. It's two different types of Kabbalah. Why Kedas v'Nishma? How could that be better than internalizing it? The answer is because it's Bittul Hadas. It's total discipline, total Bittul Hadas, total Avdus, Eved Hashem. And Eved Hashem Gadol Mizu, that I'm not even asking why should I do that? Why should I do that?
Malachim. Malachim.
So the question is, like if you have an employee and the employee questions you and then does it, is that better employee or a worse employee? So on one hand, I'm the Balabayas here, getting paid. Stop asking me so many questions. Okay, I'll be polite once, twice, but you're wasting my time. On the other hand, you can say, well, I'm going to have to promote you to an executive position because you're involved in the seichel of it. So, like, if you have employees, you'll know that it's extremely annoying when somebody makes too many suggestions and it's annoying. Unless you put the president or executive, so that's not annoying. He's doing his job. So it's not so pashut like what's better and what's worse. What is pashut is that we have to distinguish between the two things. And this is the difference, basically, between Torah Shebiksav and Torah Shebal-Peh. So Torah Shebiksav was Kaf Aleim Har Kegigis, and Torah Shebal-Peh was Kimu V'Kiblu HaYehudim. Kimu V'Kiblu Masha Kimu Kfar. They were makabel, such a beautiful lashon Chazal. They were makabel on themselves what they've already been doing. You say, well, you be makabel on yourself to say Kriya Shema every day. Well, I already say Kriya Shema every day. Yeah, but you were makabel lo malchus shavayim, right? Because of makabel. So it's a whole different. You're doing it, but are you doing it? Are you really doing it? That's the. You're really doing it. So that's the two madregas of Torah Shebiksav and Torah Shebal-Peh. So pshita. So.
On the first level, it didn't last.
It can't last. It's such an interesting thing that, which doesn't mean it's lower. It just
it didn't last long.
It's not internalized.
It didn't last long since I came into Eretz Yisrael.
What do you mean? Why do you have to go all the way? Egel Azov. That's how long it lasted. A few minutes. You have to go all the way to Eretz Yisrael to go fry. I often think to myself, and I'm saying it as a mashal, not as a sociological observation, but a mashal. I've spent a good part of my life being osik with Balei Tshuva and helping people become Balei Tshuva, and really at the raw end of it. I'm not talking about maintenance. I'm talking about like the real, really getting down in so like many intermarried couples sitting at my Shabbos table. And you can watch over the years. I've to have a desire, mamish. Like mamish, I've to have a desire. Turbans, Sikhs, the whole deal. But you can watch when people are mekabel. You can watch the process of kabbalas al malchus shemayim, which is I don't want to look at it academically, but it's you can't help but watch the process of kabbalas al malchus shemayim, and after a while you can know what's going to stick and what's not going to stick. What's going to be there forever and what's not going to be there forever. And usually, the more somebody's makabel, the less chance there is of it being there forever. And the reason is nobody's against being makabel Torah, like it's what they're hate. But the problem is that, like, sometimes it's a getter of kaf aleim har kegigis. Like, wow, like this is just amazing stuff, and this is really right, and this is it. But it doesn't take into consideration my family, my friends, my Yitzhahara, my, all the different things the habits that I've developed, all the different dependencies that I have. It doesn't take all that into consideration. There's a moment of intellectual epiphany where I say, wow, give me that struggle. I'm going to go for it. So I'm not talking about that it's insincere. I don't mean it's insincere, but it's coming from a certain part of it's like educating the brain. Like it's not integrated. It's not integrated. Whereas, so it could be it's a really good thing. It could be, you got to be careful with that. So now it becomes the job of the person who's being oisik with the chozer tshuva to say, chill, like take it easy. Not because it's too fast, but because it hasn't had a chance.
Filtered down.
Right. It's like stir the coffee a little bit. It's got to get in there. It's got to mix in. It's got to homogenize in order for it to. Basheken, if somebody is makabel something in a way which is very integrated. So it's very integrated. Something that's an integrated Kabbalah, mature Kabbalah, is going to be there forever. It's a Kabbalah forever. So it's I'm not saying policies for Barley Shuvah Kirov, although somebody should. Because today, it's a bad thing, Lania's Daiti, that happened today, because today in the world of Kirov, you get points and even money for getting people to bite the bullet. So you rush them into a situation where they're not holding by it, and it looks really good. There's nothing under that hat. But you got $12,000 for this foundation or that foundation because you made them do something. And it's kilo yetzahara. Because what's happening is you don't have a solid. I remember one of the most offensive moments that I ever experienced was I had a big famous Kiru guy come to, when I was in Buffalo, come to for Shabbos. And he said, so all the different mishpachas, the Baruch Hashem, we were zocha to bring to Yiddishkeit. Everyone with a story, everyone was, stories, fascinating stories. And so he says to me, how many people have you actually made Shomer Shabbos in the last 5 years? I never heard a question like that. It's hard to. I don't even know how to articulate why that offended me. The question offended me. But okay, he was a rich guy, so I answered. so I never heard a question. I never thought about it. It's not something I ever thought about. Like how many? I don't know. But I looked at my wife. My wife looked at me. We started thinking. So I said, maybe 90 families. I thought it was pretty good, no? 90 families. What? Amazing. Thank you. So he says, we do that in one weekend. We do that in one weekend. You do one in one weekend. You stay up all night with people for 4 years in one weekend. You do one in one. You go to their house and you spend Shabbos with them and you teach them Zviris. You do that all in one weekend. You sit there and you learn with their kids for 2 years or 3 years before you do that all in 1 week. What do you do in 1 week? What do you do in 1 weekend? It's the most chitzoni thing in the world. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's kapalei harkagigas. You could create a situation which is so strong and so compelling for the moment, but then the question is, what do you end up with in a year, in 2 years? And they go up often. I'm not saying always, but often. Unless somebody comes and rescues the situation and then brings it. We give credit where credit is due. Shlomo Carlebach, Will of Hashem, used to say, doesn't mean anything. That's what he used to say all the time. It doesn't mean anything that somebody decides to be Makabel Ol Malchus Shemayim when I sing a song or I tell a story if I don't send them to yeshiva immediately. That doesn't mean anything. It's here today, it's gone tomorrow, which is true. Otherwise, there would be a few 100,000 extra from people that were.
It's the difference between the brain and the heart.
Oh, so that's what I'm saying. You can't just educate the brain. I heard somebody speak a couple days ago. He said that professors have a body. The only reason they have a body is they need some way to transport their heads to meetings. There's a whole thing here, heart. There's David Amelech spoke about kloyos. He spoke about all. There's all parts. It's a whole marechet over here, which is okay. So
does that explain Avraham Avinu when it's in Nefesh Asher Simcharan?
Where'd they go?
Where'd they go?
That's for sure. I think Chazali would say it. The Medrash said that they were so taken with Avraham Avinu. But on the other hand, Avraham Avinu himself, we're still here because he came in achutz. And he analyzed it, and it took him years. He started at 3, ended up at 40. It took him years till he came to this conclusion. It's a whole different story. So that's why we're here. The nefesh asher aseh b'char hu hakareh. So it's just a story. It's a story. It's like like you may take her at the stadium. Thousands of people are Makabel or Abal Chashanai. Where are they? Where are they? Where are those people? Where are all the thousands of people? There should be millions of Balei Shuvah today, with all the seminars and the stadiums and the people doing all these things. So it's good, but it doesn't mean anything. In the end, it doesn't mean anything. That's what Chazal say, that the Lasev and Ishma Basof didn't work, even though it was part of the Talich, until they got to the Kibbutz Yehuda. So Rabbi Tzadok brings us here, mamish, into a place of Kabbalah, but it's we can get through this. Now, with this introduction of this distinction between Ratzon HaChutz and Ratzon HaPnim, we can get through it. And he says, let's read a few lines, and I'm going to explain. Zehu hascholos hisgalus hayesh mi'ayin. We did that already earlier. Zehu hascholos hisgalus. Please, if you don't have a sefer, take a sefer. Right? It's a question of Chaval. They're in the back over there. Zehu hascholos hisgalus hayesh mi'ayin b'chochma ha'elyoina shemimena hamshachas habriya kula. Okay, bottom shelf. The bottom shelf, straight down. When not to be read quickly, but to be read carefully. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. He created the world with Esser spheres. Emes? Esser spheres. We know about the Esser spheres. What's the Esser spheres? So there's 3 and there's 7. Let's do some basics here. There's 3 and there's 7. 3 we never talk about. Too high for us. Keser, Chachma, Bina. What do we talk about? Spheres Hoimer. Chesed, Dvor, Tiferes, Netzach, Hoydis, Hoyd, Malchus. Even though I wrote a book on it, but nobody writes a book about the Arizal. You have to be to write a book about the first 3 Ksarim, right? Shlosh Ksarim, hey, that's a Rav Shimon Bar Yochai said. Shlosh Ksarim. So those are the 3 Ksarim. The Keser, Chachma, Bina. So what does it mean? What does it mean, basics of spheres? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided to Keser, okay, I don't even know what it means. He decided to create the world. This was his Chachma. Chachma means there's a bite of information, there's a thing, there's stuff. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided to create the world here, Chachma. Bina. So the Arizal says, Chachma zu Abba, forgive me the Kabbalah, but we're not, it's not hard. So, Chachma zu Abba, Bina zu Ima. This is the Arizal. Meaning, there's a masculine and a feminine to the Bria. There's a giver and a taker. There's positive and the negative. There's a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Let's leave the Keser out for a moment. There's the Chachma. I'm going to make a world. Why am I going to make a world? The Arizal talks. Why am I going to make a world? Hashem has reasons to make a world. Okay, now the world is Makabel. In other words, so that's the Bina. Take the Chachma and process it. It's like you send an email to Hamza. I'm just saying a mashal. What are you sending? What's going through this air over here to Wi-Fi air? Nothing that anybody can discern. But the computer is the Bina. It's taking it and it's turning it into something which you can read, understand, process, can change your life. Something that's flying in the air. It can ruin your life. It can help your life. Like the internet. So, but it all comes out with 1 0 1 0. Like even that you can't see anymore. Even that you can't hear. It's like. So this is the Nibshal, this is the Chachma El Yoina. It has no mashmos to us at all. There's no mashmos. But then there's the Bina. The Bina is the Bechina of Abba, Ima. So it's the Bechina of processing. And it's processed and it takes something which is so deep and so not understandable and such a light that can't even be seen. And it divides it up into 7 spheres. I detect some Chesed, I detect some Gvura, some Tiferes, Netzach, Hoydis, and Malchus. And this is the Sefer HaYetzira's understanding of the Brias HaOlam, and from this came out all the Sifrei Kabbalah. For this basic one, Asfiris Hey Master, Loy Teshav, Loy Achadis, right? Sefer HaYetzira. It's not 11, not 9. Like, this is it. This is an exact science. There's 10 spheres. We get it, you don't get it, but that's the basic idea we can get. So this is these spheros. What's the part that we don't understand? Well, the part we don't understand is how did you get Yesh Mi'ayin? In other words, there's alternative pshatim to the Esser spheres. There's the Big Bang Theory. There's all kinds of spheres. There's evolution. There's all kinds of spheres there's all kinds of alternatives to spheres kilu, but you can't get. How do you get yesh me'ayin? Okay, Big Bang Theory. What Big Bang? Like, let's take it a step further. There's whatever evolved from what? Like, how do you get from infinity to a finite situation? How do you get something from bleak gvul to gvul? That's the part that nobody understands. Science helps nothing with this. Nothing. They're only from the finite on, whether they're right or they're wrong. But it has nothing to do with answering the big question: is how did you get yesh me'ayin? That's the question. And the answer is we don't know the answer either. Who knows? Who knows? We believe. We're believers. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates the Keser, which is still beyond our understanding. There's Chachma we can start to get, but then there's Bina. And from this, so we know about the process of creation. We understand, we're humble enough as Jews to understand that there's a part we don't understand. And that is, how do you get from finite to infinite, or from infinite to finite? How do you get yesh me'ayin? So, says Rabbi Tzadok here, here's the words. Haschalos hisgalus, the revelation of yesh me'ayin, something from nothing. The chachma ha'elyaina, that hisgalus, where it starts to become a thing that you could even touch and feel or understand or know that it's there, a bite, is b'chachma. Again, keser, chachma, bina. That's the spirit. B'chachma ha'elyaina, shemimena, from that chachma, right? Remember, like the Wi-Fi, havshachas habriya kula. From there comes out the whole bria, the Esher spheres. Kamaishi Isa. So the bria that we see with our eyes is all in 7 spheres. That's why we're always thinking of the seven spheres. We start with chesed. So we can see. We see midos. We see chesed. We see gvur. We see feres. That's this you can see. Not hard. But l'malam is that you have to be a big philosopher. Kamaishi Isa b'bereishis rabbah. Das. And this is so fascinating. Das. What's das? Das is not one of the Esher spheres. The Esher spheres are Keser, Chachma, Bina. Right? Keser, Chachma, Bina, Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus. So everybody's saying, what do you mean? I learned Tanya. Chachma, Bina, Das. Chabadnik. Where do you get Das? Das is not one of the Esher spheres. And there's no machlokes about this. The Sefer Yetzirah is clear. So it's Das. Has Das fit into this? Or is Das fit into this? So say to this forum that we can't understand Keser. So, just to make it easier to understand, for the moment, delete Keser. You can't delete Keser, but put Keser aside. Chachma, Bina. What we can do is we can't understand the Keser, but we can replace it with Das. We can process it, Chachma, Bina, we can process it in a way that it becomes, we can understand Ritzonai HaPashat. So Das is, put it this way, Das is a synonym to Keser. The difference is that if you count from Keser, which is too high for us, you have Keser, Chachma, Bina. If you count Das, all of a sudden remove the Keser and put the Das under the Bina, so you have Chachma, Bina, and Das. This has nothing to do with Chabadnikim, nothing to do with Tanya. This is just basic. Everybody holds. Everybody. This is not a chiddush of the Baal Tanya. I'll tell you what the chiddush of the Baal Tanya is in a second.
What's the end value of Das though?
Oh, so what is Das? Good question. So what is it that we took out Keser, took Das? So let's put it this way. Keser, very simple. Keser is, in the words of the Arizal, Ritzonai HaPashat. We have no hasaga in Ritzonai HaPashat. Why did Hashem create the world? What does He want? What does it mean, Ratzon Hashem? That we can't understand. What we can understand is whatever reason Hashem created the world, whatever His Chachma was and His Bina, Das means we can take it and integrate it b'fnim. And we can do chesed. And there's by the way, there's parallel parallel makbilot, the Ramchal calls them makbilos. There are parallels between the midas of Hashem and the midas our midas. So for instance, chesed equals ava, an example. Gevura equals tzedakah, tzedek. Mishpat. These are our midos. So what does it mean? It means that we don't know why you did it, but we see you did it. And what does it mean to me as a person who's a part of this creation, part of the human, the human species? What does it mean? It means I have to take your chachma and your abba, your ima, you're my parents, like intellectually, and now I have to integrate it b'fnim. That integration process is called das. And it replaces Kesser in the sense that Kesser is beyond our ability to understand, and Das is within our ability to understand. So hence it's one lower, two lower. Chachma Bina, Das. So, what's a Chabadi? I say, we don't understand. But what we can do is do Avodas Hashem. Hence Chachma Bina, Das. Let's take it in this way. An integration. That was the purpose of the Balatana. It's beautiful, beautiful. But he's not arguing that that's not the Etzem HaSpheros. He's just saying that let's take it in this direction because we find that Das can replace Kesser. We don't know, to put it even simpler, we don't know your Ratzon, but we do know we can change our Ratzon. So again, what's the difference between Kesser and Das? It's very, very important. The difference is Kesser is in the Bechina of Na'aseh v'Nishma. And Das is the bechina of kibu v'kibla Yehudim. Kesser is a bechina of Torah shebiksav. And Das is a bechina of Torah shebal peh, our work, our processing, our Ruach HaKodesh. That's Das. You see, you understand this?
It's working up. It's all working
integration.
up.
The difference is between Kesser and Das is one is integrated and one is not integrated, albeit that the Kesser is bigger. Albeit the Kesser is bigger. Like Moshe Kibel Torah Mesinai. Masro Yeshua. The Meiri, the first words in his Pirush on Perkei Avos. Moshe Kibel Torah Mesinai. Kibel Moshe Kibel. It's like somebody would be standing on top of a mountain and throwing off, 1,000 pounds of feathers, and they're all over the place, and you're standing there with a basket. Kibel Masha Kibel. It's impossible for Moshe Rabbeinu to be makabel the whole story. Rabbi HaKodesh Baruch Hu. Kibel Masha Kibel. So Moshe Kibel Torah B'Sinai Yabasr Yeshua. When he was makabel in his basket, he gave to Yeshua. Yeshua gave it to his kingdom. His kingdom gave it to Leviyim. Uleviyim Basra L'Anshei Knesset Agdol. There was another paradigm shift. The Anshei Knesset Agdol were also now able to be makabel because that was the toggle between Torah Shebiksav and Torah Shebal. Exactly what we're talking about. But I give you a mashal. They say a story like Reb Zalman Volozhin. It was Reb Chaim Volozhin's younger brother. He died very young. So they say that he was a bigger Gaon. I think he died when he was 14 or 15. They say he was a bigger Gaon than the Vilna Gaon. So Chaim Volozhin's younger brother died young. They lost somebody bigger than the Vilna Gaon. So when he there's a story. The Vilna Gaon said, I believe it his hesped, if I'm not mistaken. It was the Vilna Gaon said that I know Kol HaTorah Kula. He said it himself. I know Kol HaTorah Kula, like most people know the Mizmor of Asher Yoshvei Beisecha. And this boy knows Kol HaTorah Kula like the Olam knows the pasuk Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. This is the Vilna Gaon said. So the Reb Zalman Volozhin. So we don't have svarim from him. He was a young boy. We don't have. But we did. When he was 6, I think, or 7. So he gave the daf shiur in Volozhin. He gave a blot shiur, So you imagine like you're sitting here, like I'm saying, except he's 7, and there's a couple of hundred people, Volozhiners, with long white beards, listening to the blotchier of the 7-year-old. It was a famous blotchier, best shiur in town. So you imagine. So the story that's Messiah, I heard it a brisk, like Messiah Yisrael. The story is that he was in the middle of the blotchier and he was explaining a difficult piece of Gemara. And by the window in front of him over there was a horse went by with a wagon, and it was full of hay. And in the middle of the shiur, he jumped out the window to play in the hay. So what's the moral of the story? Kids will be kids, That's the story. What's the pshat? The pshat is that when you're bar mitzvah, you become a bar das. You could have the chachma, you could be an ilui, you could be a god, you could be Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, but you don't have das. Das means that I took that chachma, and you can't even do it until you're Chazal or B'shai or 13 years old. Maturity is, in other words, the integration of that which I know into that which I am, and that which I do. That's a bar das. There's a new pshat in bar mitzvah. Next bar mitzvah is the new pshat in a bar das. A bar das is you're not educating the head. What are you? It's something that you are. It's something that you have to. It has to permeate even while you're sleeping, even when you're not thinking. It has to become part of you. That's what das is. So das replaces keser. Just like the kibul v'kibul Yehuda replaces the das of Adishma. And that's how das and keser interact. Two different maybe one is, to put it in fancy words, keser is objective and das is subjective. It's mine. I'm saying it's wrong.
This makes more sense of the curative example, because the truth is you see a lot of people who, like in the Karlbach example, it could be that what excited them was the heart, and they needed the mind
to work up.
And some people, they get by the mind for the proof class, and then it's got to become the integration is really, that's the kimu v'kibu. It's not that now I have a heart, it's now I have integrated
holistic
both of them.
Right. I mean, so it's not necessarily this way, it could be this way also.
Yeah.
The point of the matter is that das is where it permeates me all the way. So my head becomes my heart becomes the head. Become like tefillin. Tefillin on the rosh, you put tefillin on the yad, it's all connected. Like it's not all connected. Right? Here's a little vart that Moshe said to Hashem, let me see you. And Hashem showed him, the Chazal, the kesher of the tefillin shorosh. He didn't even show him the tefillin shorosh. It's a kesher. Risas achayra. Heralai kesher shel tefillin. So this kesher. The pashut pshat is, let me see as I want to understand. In other words, if you see somebody's, like a picture's worth 1,000 words, seeing is believing, like if I could see you, I could understand it so deeply. Right? I mean, I'm giving a Pirkei Avos shiur and I'm describing Rabbi Kiva, but imagine Rabbi Kiva will walk into the room, like all my shiur either become wrong or right, but you understand the whole thing in a second. you see the whole thing in a second. So I want to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He said, you can't see me, you can see my tefillin shel rosh. In other words, you could only see, it was ironic because you could only see, to understand it on the level that you want to understand it, Moshe Rabbeinu, you're not going to understand it. Well, you're on that level, you're not going to understand it. You can see the rosh. And what's the tefillin shel rosh? He says, this is where two midos come out. This is desire, this is chesed and gevurah. So chesed and gevurah, the right side is chesed, the left side is gevurah. That's why your right ritzua is supposed to be a little longer than your left ritzua. Chesed should be a little stronger than. So your mid's small. You can see my midos. That's what you can see. So he wanted to see kilu the keser, but the keser you can't see. What you can see is the. So he didn't even see the tefillin. Even the tefillin he didn't see. He didn't see the rosh. You could see the midos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's the bottom 7, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, that's, by the way, that's filling all work out into those 7 ties, right?
The knot seems like the das because it's actually the tying of
So the knot, beautiful. The knot itself, the kesher. Kesher what? The kesher is the integration. Exactly. The kesher, it's the mitzvahs of a kesher, whatever it looks like. Ashkenaz, Sfarad, whatever. A kesher is the integration itself. So it's ki'ilu, Moshe Rabbeinu said, if we put it in words that are less poetic, it's like Moshe Rabbeinu said, let me see the kesser. He says, no, you can only see the das. That's the mashmois hadvar.
We don't really know what he wanted to see. He wanted to see Keter. We don't know what that is. So,
how could we know?
I'm saying we don't know what the pshat is. What do you want to see?
He didn't know himself probably what he wanted to see, but he knew he was missing a piece. Meaning we all know we're missing this piece. We're missing
we
like
can't
what's
name it.
right. Well, the yesh me'ayin, like what's the ritzay. So in Kabbalistic language, by the way, because I haven't used that yet, all this is called ritzay hapashut. That's the keser, and ritzay shalom. So there's 2 ritzayos, or it's called chitzonius and pnimius. This ain't Pirkei Avos, Pirkei Beis, it's Pirkei Avos. I say, Ritzonai Kirtzoncha. The Ratzon HaPashat, the Ratzon HaElyon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, make that into your Ratzon. Take Keser, turn it into Das. So that's what the Mishnah is saying there, Pirkei Avos. Today, in order, Shitahei Ritzonai Kirtzoncha, which is a bigger chiddush, that if I have my Ratzon all set, so my Ratzon is hooked up to the Ratzon Hashem, right? So now I can actually manipulate the Ratzon Hashem. That's what the Tana is saying there. Today, Shtei Ratzono Kirtzonecha, Ritzon Yirei Yasa. There's the Ratzon HaPashut, and then there's my Ratzon. My Ratzon is his Ratzon. I'm just trying to take his Ratzon and turn it into my Ratzon and integrate it. But if you do a good enough job, you're so tied at the hip with the Ratzon Hashem that your Ratzon becomes his Ratzon. So Atzadik Geyser HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Kayim. Ritzon Yirei Yasa. It's possible to actually, well, that's what Moshe Rabbeinu accomplished here with this Kesher Shorosh. Actually able to change the Ratzon Hashem. Did he do that?
Yeah.
Did that, right? He said, Hashem said, let's get rid of the whole people. He said, no, I'm not asking. Well, he's like that annoying employee. I said, I want to get rid of them. No. He's arguing with the Kodesh. All of a sudden he becomes a lawyer. Are we in court? Am Hashem. Adi Hashem. There it is that since he was the Anav Mikol Adam, and he was so able to integrate the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he did this Mishnah, into his Ratzon. So now HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it is not just a Mida connected Mida, it just becomes one thing. The Das and the Keser become Ein Zach. That's the Pshat. It all becomes one thing. So now it can work either way. It's like a seesaw. It can work either way. So it says the words here, K'moshi Sabreish Breishis Rabbah, Das the Ruach HaKodesh. You see, is there a madrega of Bittul Hadas? I'm a vatal my das to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Such a thing, no? So that's the madrega of a tzaddik. I'm a vatal my das. So I'm not doing das, I go straight for the keser. Right? But then there's another madrega of having das. So it's 2 different things. Das, says Tzaddik, ze Ruach HaKodesh. Because of Rashi. Isn't it beautiful that all of this Tzaddik finds in Rashi in Parshas Kisisa? Because of Rashi, Zehu, Rashi talks Ruach HaKodesh. Rashi says there in Parshas Kisisa, what's Ruach HaKodesh? Zehu hasogas hachachomim b'torah shebal peh. That's all Rashi says. Ruach HaKodesh zu hasogas chachomim. When you come to this Rashi with your Rabbi Sedra, Ruach HaKodesh zu hasogas chachomim b'torah shebal peh. So we say Rashi, such a litvak. Doesn't he understand Ruach HaKodesh is like a big thing? Like this is a big thing. What he's saying is that Das Ruach HaKodesh is das. The pasuk says das, right? The das is Ruach HaKodesh. And Ruach HaKodesh is our hasaga, our processing. What have we done with the Chachma Yoda? How much has it become us? Shemitzad HaKedusha HaPnimiyos Madrega Nemucha Me'arishonim. Das, on the one hand, Ruach HaKodesh. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Chafez. The Gemara says that even though we don't have Nevuah now, we can still use Ruach HaKodesh. The Gemara says Hillel had Ruach HaKodesh. Shmuel HaKatan had Ruach HaKodesh. So it's a lower Madrega. We don't have Nevuah, we only have Ruach HaKodesh. So says Rabbi Tzadok, it's Mitzad HaKnusha, Pnimius Madrega Nemucha Me'arishonim. Went down a level. L'chai Starga. Avol Yadua, but it is well known, this is from the Eitz Chaim, from the Arizal, Kima Shemoinin Chachma Bina Das, the fact that we add Das, B'minyan Ha'asara, says the Arizal, Hu Mitzad HaPnimiyos. So on the Chitzonius level, meaning the esoteric, that which we can't understand, so of course, the Ruach HaKodesh is a lower Madrega, because Ruach HaKodesh is what I come up with in my own hasagas hachachomim b'Torah Sheba'al Peh. How can you compare that to what Yeshayahu and Navi heard? Yirmiyahu heard straight from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Can't compare it. This is like raw God stuff. Avol mitzad hachitzonius yavayat keser b'mkaima. So if you're in the chitzonius, if you're in a place which is academic, a place where you really can't understand. So of course on the chart, the keser is b'mkaima shulamala michachma v'asaga shebemoach. So it comes out that on an esoteric level, the Kesser is higher. But on a plemius level, why? Why is it higher? Ki hu ha'or makif. She'iyah shela sigoi b'chachma maseges. It's or makif. Or makif means HaKadosh Baruch Hu, chachma, which is outside of the Bria. Makif. It's outside of the Bria. It's not part of the Bria Gufa. So of course it's a higher Madrega. What was it going to do with me? So he says, Rak b'das. Listen to these words, Reb David, Shehu Chibur Chachma Ubida, but Das, which is already an integration of Chachma Ubida, Dahainu, Shemizboinein Ladas Lahavin, Shroshe HaChachma, that I'm working, I'm toiling, I'm horving to understand Shroshe HaChachma, Umisyageya Lamoid Al Imkam Veleda Ikaram, and I'm working so hard to understand what does this mean to me. Zehu Das. That's Das. Bezeh, and then you got a Baal Tshuva forever, right? Bezeh, hu mamshich Ruach HaKodesh, at that moment, Ruach HaKodesh kicks in. The moment that I've what is Ruach HaKodesh? Ruach HaKodesh, says Rashi in Parshas Kisisa, is the moment that I've integrated the Chachma Elyono into my own system, into my own Zion Spherois, so then you are now permeated with Ruach HaKodesh, you get the Ruach HaKodesh badge, and you are now about Ruach HaKodesh, you've just become an Admor. Because I've taken the Chachma Elyono, the esoterica, and I made it Lamaisa. Through tremendous amount of, if somebody says they have Ruach HaKodesh and they didn't do that, then they're a liar. No Ruach HaKodesh. Maybe they have, I don't know what they have, maybe it's Avodah Zarah. But Ruach HaKodesh is the complete integration which takes total chachma. That's what Ruach HaKodesh is.
So the chitzonius is something that is beyond you, and the pneumius is something that you have to work to get to.
Right, and then it's not beyond you at all. Beficha u'belvavcha v'asaysay. That's what it is. Ruach HaKodesh. You know, like it's not a the Ravid writes on his Pirush of the Rambam, like Hasagas the Ravid al Rambam. He writes, "Farbofia Ruach HaKodesh Harbe Public Beis Midrash." I always see Ruach HaKodesh in our Beis Midrash. I've seen Ruach HaKodesh. You speak to true Gedolei Torah, not true Gedolei Torah that have absorbed the whole Torah into themselves is a Ruach HaKodesh. Their words are words of Torah. They're words of Emes. Ruach HaKodesh, because there's nothing there but Torah. Nothing there but Torah. I remember when my Rebbe Rav Scheinberg was 100, 100, 200, 300. So So like he wasn't really, like he didn't look at Svarv anymore. There was no Svarv, he was kind of looking, you know. So somebody said, like what's he thinking about? You know, he's just sitting there thinking, you know. I mean, he wasn't dementia, you could talk to him, but he just wasn't looking at Svarv anymore. He wasn't really talking and learning anymore. Was it? So I said to him, I don't know, but what does he have in there to think about? What else? What's he thinking about? I mean, what else is in there except for 80 years of solid hasbana and Torah? There's nothing else in that. Nothing else there. What else can he be thinking of? Pshat is, you know. So the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos. I spoke at his 100th birthday. So the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos. Ben Meya, so something becomes Ben Meya. So Ben Shorasre L'Chuppah, L'Chamish L'Mikra, Ben Bekivish Nasa, Ben Meya, over a bottle min oilam. So the pshat is, you know, like, so hence the term in Yiddish, the derogatory term of over bottle. Over a bottle min oilam, or what it means, sinah. Right? I said, pshat over a bottle min oilam is already like not a cheluk of this. How do I look at this word? Over bottom in Oilam is in a different. Even the Torah is in a different place. Right after 89, whatever, I don't know, 100 years of Torah. I'm saying the mashal. You can see Ruach HaKodesh daily. No chiddush. So that's the Ruach HaKodesh. Dainu shemisbarnu l'das havin shroshe achachma umasyageya lamoid al imkam v'leda ikaram shezehu b'das. That's das. Ki b'zeh. Who mamshich Ruach HaKodesh, and that brings in Ruach HaKodesh, lahasig me'or hamakif hanelam, and it gets a piece of the outside or hamakif, mikoyach hasagas ha'adam. So what is Ruach HaKodesh? We'll leave it here. What is Ruach HaKodesh? Ruach HaKodesh is when you find with das a piece of the infinity. And you don't necessarily understand it, but you are it. And since you are it, that's called Ruach HaKodesh. Ruach HaKodesh is when I have absorbed the infinity to the point that if somebody asks me something, the past, the present, the future, it's all the same thing. What's deep? It's Ruach HaKodesh. Ruach HaKodesh is, it's all the same thing, because Ruach HaKodesh comes from infinity. Infinity, there is no time. There is no chesed, there's no gvura. You're talking about chesed, you're talking about the Bala Yaakov.
It doesn't really explain Bina.
Okay, we got to get there.
No, he says integration, but he just goes from das. He just goes from Chochmah to das. And
what is the Bechina of Bina? Yeah.
I was wondering where Bina was.
Okay.
That's another.
Yep. Okay.